Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something I think a lot of us wonder about. What really separates a decent photo from a truly great award-winning one? It can feel like a mystery, but believe me, the answers are closer than you think.
Okay, so check this out. This photograph just won the super prestigious Gold Plate Award, and it was up against 127 other incredible shots. You can just feel the power in it, right? It's kind of raw, a little bit unsettling. And the very first thing you probably notice is what you can't see. The person's face is completely blurred.
So, the big question is, why this one? What did the judges see that made it stand out? In this explainer, we're going to peel back those layers, and I'll even share some pro-level secrets that you can start using to really elevate your own photography.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to tackle the big question. What actually makes a photo art? Then, we'll get into the real engine behind amazing images, the ideas. After that, we'll open up the technical toolkit to see how it's done. And finally, we'll talk about the most important part, how you can use all this to tell your own story.
All right, let's get right into it. To understand what the experts are looking for, we have to go way beyond just a pretty picture. It's not about just pointing your camera at something beautiful.
It really boils down to three core pillars. You need a powerful concept, you need a compelling story or narrative, and you need masterful technique to bring it all to life. When all three of those things come together, well, that's when the magic really happens.
Let's start with what I think is the most important pillar of all, the idea. You know, a pretty picture is nice to look at for a second, but a picture with a really strong concept, that's what sticks with you. That's what makes you stop and think. That award-winning photo we were just looking at is a perfect example of what's known as conceptual art. The idea here is that the message, the concept behind the image, is actually way more important than the final picture itself. The photo is just the delivery system for a much bigger idea. So, remember how that person's face was blurry, but all the objects around them were razor sharp? That was totally on purpose. It stops being a photo of a specific person and starts being a commentary on all of us. It suggests that we can become defined by our stuff. It could be any one of us in that photo, and that's what makes it so universal and so powerful.
Now, let's look at another example. This is a fantastic photo of how one tiny detail can completely transform an image. This was taken backstage. So in the foreground, you see these performers, all polished and ready for the show. But the real story? Look in the mirror.
That reflection is everything. The photographer was patient, like a hunter, just waiting for that one perfect, fleeting moment to happen. In fact, the judge was very clear. Take away that reflection, and it's just another snapshot. But with it, it becomes art. So why is that? It comes down to a really cool technique.
And this illustrates it perfectly. It's a concept called virtual/real correspondence. You have the real world in the foreground telling one story, the polished exterior, but the virtual world in the mirror tells a completely different one, the chaotic, hidden reality. It's that tension between what's on the surface and what's underneath that creates such a gripping story.
Okay, one more concept for you. This is a composite shot made up of several aerial photos of bridges. It's super clean, very geometric, almost perfect, but wait. Take a look at that one piece, the old, overgrown one. Doesn't quite fit, does it? That one imperfect image is what art critics sometimes call the thorn. It's like hitting one slightly off-key note in an otherwise perfect song. It's there on purpose. The artist wanted it there. It's a deliberate little flaw that grabs your eye and forces you to stop and look closer, to really engage with the piece.
Okay, so you've got this killer idea in your head. Now what? How do you actually turn that vision into a photograph? It's not just about getting lucky. So let's shift gears and get into the how with some pro tools and techniques.
Sure, sometimes you get lucky. You just happen to be in the right place at the right time. But the pros, they don't leave it to chance. They are master planners. They plan out the location, the exact time, and yes, even the weather, using a whole toolkit of apps and know-how. For example, let's say you're going for mountain shot. You can use an app like Windy to check the weather forecast, specifically the altitude of the clouds. Then you just compare that to your altitude. Are the clouds going to be below you? Amazing! You're going to get a sea of clouds.
Are they at your level? Well, you're going to be shooting inside a big white wall of fog. It's all about planning.
All right, let's tackle a classic technical puzzle. We've all seen those mind-blowing photos, right? A perfectly sharp Milky Way stretching across the sky, and below it, these bright, beautiful streaks of light from car headlights. So how on earth is that possible in one picture?
Well, here's the secret. It's not. It's not possible to do in a single photo. The camera settings you need for each part are complete opposites. For the Milky Way, you need a wide-open aperture and high ISO to gather all that faint light. For the car trails, you need a tiny aperture and low ISO to keep things from blowing out. The solution? You take two different photos from the exact same spot and blend them together later.
And what about getting those stars perfectly sharp? Your autofocus is going to fail you here. So instead, use this super simple manual trick. Just find the brightest star you can see, use your camera screen to digitally zoom way in on it, then switch to manual focus. Now just slowly turn that focus ring until that star is the tiniest, sharpest little dot of light you can get. Boom. Perfect focus.
All right, let's bring this all home. We've looked at the why behind the art, the power of having a strong concept. And we've dug into some of the how behind the craft, the technical skills you need to actually make that vision a reality. In the end, it all comes down to this idea from the artist Lin-Ching Chuan. The techniques, the camera, the apps, they're all just tools in your toolbox. They're the language you use to tell the story that only you can see. So you now have the fundamental building blocks. You get what makes an image really sing, and you've got some powerful techniques to help you do it. The only real question left is, what story is out there waiting for you to tell?